Four Midwest Guys presents X-Men Apocalypse X-Pectations.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Four Midwest Guys presents X-Men Apocalypse X-Pectations. With me today is Johnny Z.
Good evening, my friends.
Good evening, Johnny, and with him is his wife, Stephanie.
Hello.
Hello, Steph. And my brother Aaron's back.
Hey, how's it going, man?
How's it going, dude? And Mr. Eichenbauer couldn't be with us tonight, but hopefully we'll be back next week. So, with that, and if you haven't guessed it already, we are going to go over X-Men Apocalypse. We're going to talk about our hopes and our fears, essentially, for it. We'll basically just we'll talk about what we saw in the trailers and the TV spots so far, and then from there, we'll go into our hopes and fears for the movie, followed by some quick-fire questions. All right, so let's just get right into it. So, impressions from the trailers and TV spots so far, Aaron?
I think one of the things I really took away from the first trailer I saw from this is just how much it used color in like the trailer comparison to, like, say, other films we've seen come out. Especially if you're comparing it to, say, like Batman vs. Superman, which was very dark, very grim. This has actually used color, and like you can almost see a transition from like one shade to another, like one scene to the next. And you have that kind of interesting, just how the film shot seems very interesting.
Well, we got a bit of the new color scheme back when Bryan Singer came back from Days of Future Past.
Yeah, you definitely saw that in Days of the Future Past very heavily too. And if you go back to Days of Future Past, there's a lot of scenes that are just really well shot. They're very well coordinated. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll probably see a bit of that in the upcoming film as well.
Yeah, I mean, Days of Future Past is definitely by far my favorite in the X-Men. I'm not putting Deadpool in there because I think Deadpool's on a category all by himself.
Just because Colossus is in it doesn't make it count.
Right, exactly. And he gets to, let's face it, he gets to do a heck of a lot more than X-Men will ever be able to do in a movie.
And he's even like the X-Men reject in the movie, so he's not quite the X-Men.
He's not really an X-Men. So with that, outstanding. Of the entire series so far, Days of Future Past is my favorite. So they've got a lot to live up to. So I was excited to see what the TV spots and the trailers have to show so far. It's so hard to put this in words because Apocalypse, at least from the TV series, the 90s TV series, which I so loved as a child, Apocalypse was a big part of that series. So I already know quite a bit about him. I quite know a lot about the Four Horsemen that come with him and everything that he does. So just to see that on screen for me, it's very cool. It's very nostalgic so far. Everything I've seen, I'm eating it up, going, "Oh my God, there he is! There's Archangel! Yay!" And it's doing the whole fanboy thing with it. So that being said, everything I've seen so far in the trailer, there's a few things that worry me. Otherwise, everything looks pretty doggone cool. Anyway, if nothing else, it's going to be an enjoyable movie, at least a fun movie. I don't know if it'll be as good as Days of Future Past. I don't know.
Yeah,
John, what do you think?
I mean. Actually, it's funny. Days of Future Past, for the longest time, I was like I resisted seeing it for the longest time because I was just tired of like the Wolverine show. Because to me, X-Men, if you read the comics, like you said, if you watch the cartoons, no one character ever really stood out. You always had a favorite, but no one character always took center stage. It was always about the team and what they represented and what they stood for. And the more the movies went on, the more it became, the more it really started to become the Wolverine show, which, yeah, let's face it, I mean, Hugh Jackman's probably the most dynamic actor of the bunch, but the other characters had more of a time to develop, and I think that's what was starting to piss me off. And I guess the reason why I resisted so much is because, like you said, Days of Future Past was your favorite. First Class was my favorite, and I loved what they did with it because for the first time, it felt like something was finally embodying the comics the way it was supposed to. It was, to me, the comics were always about, I mean, they first were published in 1963, so it was about a representation of the ideals of Martin Luther King Jr. versus Malcolm X, which, of course, are represented by Professor Xavier and Magneto. I mean, Magneto is, of course, the by any means necessary, and Charles Xavier is we must learn to peacefully coexist. Mm-hmm. So that's what I loved, is I loved that use of, and it's the use of the medium to bring this symbolism and idealism into the masses, and at the same time, it also, like, being in middle school or being in high school or whatever age you are, when you saw the cartoons or read the comics, you always felt like the outcast. And that's what helped a lot of us other fellow outcasts get through it too. Yeah. Bryan Singer took the reins in X-Men 1 and, you know, for the first time brought, you know, legitimate, you know, dramatic approach to comics, and people went, oh, hey, we can actually do this. X2 got a lot of praise. I felt a lot of the times it got over, like, heavy-handed, which, you know, the heavy-handedness is actually what scared me away from him coming back to Days of Future Past, because after First Class, he, you know, I love the direction it took, and I was afraid that it would just go back to all the other stuff that I was, you know, afraid was going to fall into, like, you know, the fact that Bryan Singer never does female characters good. In any one of his movies. The fact that he makes Wolverine stand out too much, and everything I saw from the Days of Future Past trailers, it was always about the Wolverine show, and I was like, oh crap, here we go again, it's not what the comics are about. But then when I finally sat down and watched it, yeah, I loved it. It wasn't quite First Class for me, but it was close second, so I was like, alright, I'm good. So when the trailer for Apocalypse hit, like you said, like watching the cartoon, I got all that old feelings, like the giant blue guy that was actually pretty terrifying to watch on screen. I mean, he was, for a kid, you're just like,
yeah,
oh my god, he's stronger than all of them.
I've always said he is he's the Marvel answer to Darkseid's DC.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean, probably not as strong, because there was a website that, you know, they said who would win, Darkseid or Apocalypse, and they just like listed all the reasons Darkseid would, like, quote, curb stomp him,
kick his butt. But still, I see him just as menacing, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's one of the most threatening villains in the Marvel universe. So I mean, to bring his story to life on the screen, yeah, it's going to be exciting. And
yeah, I mean, if you're comparing it to Darkseid, wouldn't you naturally jump to Galactus?
Well, just a straight comparison between the two. Right. To me, I always put the two together in the same side by side. Okay. Not that Galactus isn't, you know, evil and but anyway, we'll get into that debate. That's another show. Right. Stephanie, you've been waiting patiently. What have you so far? What you've seen? What have you liked? What have you seen out of the trailers? What haven't you liked? What have you seen?
So, John, was that your hopes and fears or your impressions of the trailer?
I think that was the
overall... that was my long-winded history of the series.
Okay, all right.
While glossing over, like, X-Men Origins and Brett Ratner.
Yeah,
there you go.
Well, my impressions of the trailer and the TV spots and stuff.
Yeah, we just watched a TV spot before the show. That whole thing with Magneto.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with it. I, like you and my husband, I said I was, you know, the Saturday morning kid that sat there with her cereal and watched the cartoons, and it was awesome. I loved it, and I was excited when they did the X-Men movies and the crappiness that came out before First Class and Days of Future Past. I was like, seriously?
Really? Oh, I loved X1 and X2. X3 was like a giant betrayal.
I was like, what? I think X1 was good. X2 was eh. X3 was like, seriously? No.
Okay.
It was probably the most pointless entry.
It was setting up what I thought was going to be the Dark Phoenix saga, and I was very excited for it.
Yeah, but then they kind of pissed it down their leg.
Yes,
the most powerful being in the universe is taken down by 3 pointy claws.
Don't get me wrong; it was they crapped all over the Dark Phoenix saga. That'll be for later in the show, because there's actually a question for that. But yeah, so okay, so
my impressions are I think it looks awesome. I cannot wait to go see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so now let's transition what we've seen so far, and now let's talk about what we what we're hoped to see, and what we fear to see. And Aaron, I'll let you go first on this one.
I kind of want to see Storm be better played. I haven't seen much of her in the trailer. She's always been one of the coolest X-Men characters. And you really haven't seen much of her, so it's hard to say how they'll go. And I want to say my biggest fear out of this is that it'll be kind of mediocre and kind of forgettable. And to be honest, I actually forgot the release date of this before we started this.
Yeah,
and
they really haven't been plugging it as hard as they
Yeah,
normally do.
I mean, following Civil War, this is kind of it's a hard movie to follow. And it'd be really easy if this isn't like a really good film to just kind of forget it's there.
Okay. That's
for me, that's probably the biggest fear coming out of this, is that it's going to be okay to mediocre to the point it's just going to be a forgotten film.
Okay, that's fair. I'll build off of that. I'll say it seems like to me that Jennifer Lawrence is going to be a prominent figure
Again.
in this movie. She did really well in Days of Future Past. There's been one TV spot in particular it was a cage fight, and I know, John, you're trying to avoid the TV spot, so I won't go into detail. But but her acting in that one spot it makes me wonder if she's
phoning it in.
Yes, very much so. If she's,
I got 3 Oscar nominations and 1 win. What the hell do I need a comic book role for?
So I'm a little worried with her. That worries me. I'm very glad to see the return of Quicksilver, the same actor we saw in Days of Future Past. I think that's going to be a highlight. I think he's going to be awesome. It seems like we're going to have some sort of dynamic story with Magneto and possibly some sort of a family situation going on there. So seeing him interact with Magneto, I think is going to be awesome.
Never forget, in the comics, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are the children of Magneto. Whatever Disney says, they will always be Magneto's children.
I agree 1,000%. However, there are good things. The way they portray Apocalypse, I'm on the fence. He doesn't. When I think of Apocalypse, I always think of the cartoon version. He's a very much more broader figure in stature. Oscar Isaacs isn't really that. He's fairly skinny.
He's Poe Dameron.
He's
an X-wing pilot.
Yeah, let's face it. That's how I see.
He's
Poe
Llewyn
Dameron.
Davis.
He has to fit in a cockpit.
Although I will
He's
say,
a folk singer.
I will say what we've seen so far is he doesn't look or sound anything like Poe Dameron or Oscar Isaacs for that matter, because he's got a voice modulator on. And he has so much makeup and so much gear on him.
Bryan Singer actually said in an interview, he actually played the cartoons for the screenwriters and the sound mixers, and they said, this is how he sounds in the cartoon.
Okay.
And if anyone that watched the cartoon at an impressionable age, that was a scary as shit voice. It
was Darth Vader meets, I don't know, something more haunting. It was like a haunting.
That was like if James Earl Jones truly went to the dark side.
Yeah,
what Apocalypse
pretty much
sounded like.
Yeah. It was loud. It was voice. It hit you in the chest, the bass hit you in the chest of his voice. So I'm hoping. I'm fearful of what I've seen so far, but I'm hopeful that it works. Hopefully they set it up well. They set up the whole backstory well. We'll see what happens. So I'm kind of on the fence on this one. And to build off what Aaron was saying, it's coming after Civil War. That's hard to follow. And it's also coming off of Days of Future Past, which in my opinion is the best in the series. So that's hard to follow up as well. So it's got a lot to live up to, and it's got a lot to take in. So we'll see what happens. Steph?
Yeah, unfortunately, not all movies can top the one before. That unfortunately we've seen that, sadly. But
unless you're Jason Bourne.
But hopefully, I'm hoping for your sake and for the fans of the whole series that it does build off the other ones and it does do better and it kind of slingshots it and past Civil War and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As far as my hopes and fears go, I'm hoping that it does do that. I'm hoping that it adds to the series, not downgrades it or downplays it. Because if it does, that's going to suck. I mean, come on. Everyone's going to sit there and go, how do you follow that with that crap if it's that bad?
Well, yeah. I hope. I don't think it's going to be that bad.
I'm scared But like you, hey, Archangel's going to be in it. I am so glad they are finally doing something with him because you got to see him in what X3,
The Abomination.
yeah,
Yeah. It was not very well portrayed.
as known to my husband as the Abomination. But X3, you got to see him come out, and then you haven't seen him since.
Yeah, it was
And it's
just
like,
kind of a cameo. It was,
But yeah, it was kind of cool to see him, and then Jennifer Lawrence. I'm kind of curious how that's all going to play out too, because she's still Mystique, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because the Abomination, I that threw in is just messing me up.
well, yeah. I'm just not sure she cares. It just seems everything I've seen so far in the trailers would say, almost everything I should say, says it's a little lackluster. It seems to me.
She's ready to be killed off.
Kind of feels that way. Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that McAvoy, gives us the Professor X that we deserve.
Oh, he always has.
Also,
Yeah, I think so.
he has going into all this, and then to see him as the Professor X toward in the
Like the
trailer,
full
I'm just like,
baldness.
yeah, come on, please.
Yeah.
Full chrome dome by the...
That's going to be very cool. But the other thing they did, they had a behind the scenes thing with him and Patrick Stewart. They actually did FaceTime with Patrick Stewart when it came time to shave his head, because he actually
Really?
shaved his head, and they had Patrick Stewart like right there, and he's talking to. It's awesome. It's really.
I haven't seen
It's
that.
pretty cool.
Oh,
So,
I need to see that.
To me, that tells me he cares.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going to say it right now. I think McAvoy was a better Professor X than Patrick Stewart. I know that a lot of nerds are probably going to hunt me down for that.
Yeah,
Nothing
you're-
against
Pitchfork's coming.
Nothing against Patrick Stewart. It was a good performance. I just thought there was more depth and more personal, just like personal.
Well,
What's the word I'm looking for?
Well, I mean,
Just
you might run that down to the writing end of it more so than on the performance end, though.
yeah, there's also more of a personal connection with McAvoy because we've seen him go through all this crap. We've seen him become
Right.
Professor X.
Right.
We've grown with him. so to
And he
speak.
just feels like more of a solid character by this point than Patrick Stewart did, who, let's face it, we all wanted to cast Patrick Stewart as X-Men from the day the cartoon aired, and we all loved it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God, we need a Picard.
Open and-
he's
open and
bald,
shut.
he's a nerd, we have to put him in.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I agree. I absolutely agree.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but it also made the Magneto dynamics in those, like the first film, really fun.
I thought the Magneto and Professor X dynamics in the last two were so much better.
That's
Because-
fair. I really liked them in the first film, too, though.
Oh, they were good, but I think you got more of the why are we frenemies
Yeah.
Yeah.
in First Class
that's
and
fair.
Future Past.
Yeah.
Because, and again, it's like, and I hate to go back to the original idea, it's like, yes, it is Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and you've got, that moment when they're playing chess in First Class, and you hear them both talking about their ideals, it almost felt like 1963, sitting in a table with those two having dinner, and then just talking about these ideals about the civil rights movement and everything. It just really felt like that. That's the first time to me that X-Men felt like it was being honestly portrayed.
can you all tell I'm not a comic book girl? Because I can.
That's all right. You're here to give us that outside perspective.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would be a nerd fest around and round and round.
She keeps our nerddom in check.
She does. She keeps it in check. All right, Johnny. So, what are your hopes and fears for X-Men Apocalypse?
My hopes are, and it's like we've been talking about, Apocalypse to me was always my favorite villain because he was the scariest. He was the most threatening. He was the one that you actually, for the first time watching the cartoon, felt the X-Men were out of their class or out of their league fighting him.
Completely, yeah. You could kill him instantly.
In
as
a
well, I always
heartbeat,
felt.
yeah. And that to me is what made that whole, his character so awesome. Because that to me is what a good villain is. He's the one that he's like the Terminator or Jason or Freddy Krueger. How do you kill them?
Yeah.
How do you get rid of them? And this man is, mutant, who's like called the first mutant and been around since the dawn of time. He's the most powerful, and it's just, God, I love him as a villain. He's one of my all-time favorite comic villains, and that's my hope. Is like that is portrayed very well. And I think another one of my hopes too, and this goes into why I had such a fear of Future Past at first, and also it kind of is my negative points of X-Men's 1 and 2. Bryan Singer does not do women well. Like, look at, I mean, even outside of his X-Men films, At Pupil, Valkyrie, do we remember any women in The Usual Suspects? I mean, that movie was a sausage fest.
Yeah, but I mean,
but it was an awesome.
But it was an
I was
awesome
gonna say,
sausage fest.
That's
Yes,
more
it
writing
was.
there, probably.
It's not even.
No,
good.
I mean,
No.
Bryan Singer has even said it. Like, he favors men more. And, you know, granted, yes, that's his sexuality, so
Right.
whatever. Cool. But to me, X-Men, the best and the strongest characters of the X-Men were the women.
Yeah,
I mean,
for the most part.
Storm, Jean Grey, and, come on, Rogue.
Where is Rogue, by the way?
By
We
the way,
still
yeah,
haven't
yes.
seen Rogue.
That is, and I hate to say
Well,
it,
that's depending on where they put her in the timeline.
I know,
Like, if
because
they put her
she
20
is-
years down the line, you're not going to see her for a bit.
and again, we can thank Bryan Singer for that, because think of how he's portrayed her in the first one. A crying little teenage girl handcuffed to a machine. She's essentially the thing to be rescued. I
but
hated her portrayal in the movies.
I'm with Aaron as far as like Storm needs to be kind of brought out.
Yes.
I mean, she is badass
Yeah.
in the cartoons that we grew up with as
Yeah.
kids, and we've only seen her do some like little tornadoes here and there.
Yeah,
lightning.
she was sidelined
and
in
some
1 and
lightning,
2. Like,
and we're kind of like,
You might,
dude, you could do a hell of a lot more.
for as crappy as the Abomination was, I mean, Halle Berry even said herself after X2, she's like, Storm needs to do more stuff. I mean, I
And
felt
I'm
like I haven't
hoping
done
that-
anything.
I'm hoping that they do more with her because
Yeah.
they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Well, if
So-
Apocalypse is out to destroy humanity, we'll see. She also has a mohawk in this one, by the way.
Well, yeah,
Well,
that's
she had a mohawk in the
comics.
in the comics and the
In the
cartoon,
cartoon,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know. It is introducing Jubilee back into like the movie universe, so that's
Nice.
kind of cool. I like Jubilee. I am actually kind of happy about that.
here, my fireworks.
Sorry. Oh
Yeah.
my god. That,
Oh, she is not an
She-
overpowered character,
all right.
but she's a cool character.
She's there to be rescued.
As long as she's doesn't-
Jubilee held her own.
as long as she's not the Jubilee that puts out, fountain fireworks. As long as she has some real firepower behind her, just blows shit up. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm fire, actual fire, not fireworks. I'm okay with it.
So that's so I guess my hope is they stay to the ideals, they stay to the Apocalypse character, and my fears are that Bryan Singer's going to fall back into old habits of making his female characters whiny and pathetic or villains. That's it. That's all he knows how to portray women as in his movies.
Well, we do know that Storm is a villain, and she's one
Exactly.
of the, she's one of the
She's a villain.
four
Every female in his movies, they're either villains or
Well, I mean, of the four horsemen, I mean, that is kind of divided. You have Archangel, Magneto, and then you have Psylocke and Storm.
and it also kind
Although I
of.
like the idea of using Psylocke. She looks really badass. The
Yeah.
more I learn about that character, the more.
Oh my God, Psylocke in the comics was one of the most awesome and hottest women to follow. Which again, my whole thing about the toughest women, the toughest characters in the X-Men were the women. I mean, outside of Wolverine, maybe if
Well, I
you
mean,
took
Cyclops
out
was also pretty overpowered to certain extents, but it depends on whether the
Was-
writer kind of played up that part or not.
Cyclops is always underused, in my opinion.
yeah.
But he only has one power, so.
Yeah,
I
but
look
it's
at
a
things
power.
really hard.
But I kick your ass when I do. Yeah.
Yeah, at the same time, it's one power, but it's almost of a nuclear threat level power.
I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
like-
it's probably more powerful than Superman's heat ray vision.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
easily.
Like his vision, when portrayed well, is probably one of the most powerful weapons out there.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
it'll be very interesting to see. Like going back to Apocalypse for a second, just because God, yeah, he is
Because it's such a big thing to
big
portray
thing.
on
He's
the
such a
screen. You got to
huge
do it
thing.
right.
Yeah, I mean, he is the ultimate threat. He is biblical ties. They use the whole end of the world
He is more
You know.
terrifying than Magneto.
by far,
Easily.
10 times
Yeah.
more. I mean, he is literally well, I kind of use this reference a lot, but he is the Antichrist of the X-Men world.
Yeah.
He really is. He's the guy.
He's the
who-
bringer of the end.
right.
That's what he wants.
So yeah, hopefully they do that right. So far, we've seen some really great disaster scenes and some really cool special effects.
Very true. Yeah.
But come to think of it, though, we haven't seen much of Storm And I mean, we've seen her in the air, but we haven't seen her really do
No,
much.
I mean, I think there's a trailer where you see her land, and I think that's about it.
Yeah, so hopefully we see a little bit more of that.
Yeah,
I would
I'm
love to
hoping-
see some storm kick.
Oh yeah, like
some butt.
since they're making her one of the Four Horsemen characters, like I'm really kind of hoping they're just not showing it just because of how awesome it is, and they're just wanting
They're trying to save it.
Yeah, just have it set aside for one of those things that really takes people back.
I forgot to add another one of my hopes, which I know it's not going to happen because it's not anywhere near the script or anywhere near the comics.
Yeah.
One of my ideal matchups in the Marvel Universe was always Apocalypse versus Rogue. Like, full-on, post-Miss Marvel absorption of the powers Rogue. I mean, that would have been... I mean, that to me was like... I mean, that was almost like the Superman Doomsday fight for me for the Marvel Universe. Like, just watching those two.
Yeah.
Because that would have been amazing.
Yeah, see, Rogue absorb even Storm's powers would be something.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
out of control person.
hell,
Can't control the weather. And
if she had both
all
Miss
hell breaks
Marvel
loose.
and Juggernaut's abilities fully absorbed in her, imagine what the hell she could do against Apocalypse. And the way that her character's written now is like she can recall any of her like people she's absorbed.
yeah.
So I mean, dear God, that would be a matchup for the century.
But that's kind of how they're setting up Apocalypse, too, is he's been so many other different mutants. He takes their powers with him every time, too. So she's kind of the same, really.
See, it would be a perfect matchup.
Yeah.
But again, Bryan Singer loves his sausage fest, so we're not going to see that.
Oh, in case you hadn't figured out, Bryan Singer's gay, just in case you didn't know.
Nothing against that. Nothing against that. Just, dear God, give the women the respect they deserve, man. Come on.
All right, so one thing we haven't really talked about, look at it in the quick fire questions, and one character we haven't touched on tonight is Jean Grey. And Sophie from Game of Thrones, Sansa, is stepping into the role. So let's just go around. How do you guys think how do you think she's going to do, John?
Sansa, for the longest time, was an annoying character, and I actually thought that was why Bryan Singer cast her. So, but in this last season from Game of Thrones, which we'll probably get to talking in our other Game of Thrones podcast, Sansa has really shown off a strength of her own, and I really hope that strength comes through in her portrayal of Jean Grey.
Okay. Steph, what do you think?
I'm excited to see her. I love her in Game of Thrones this season, and past season she's been kind of whiny and cranky, but
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where she goes with this. So yeah.
Aaron?
I'm not really sure. With both Jean Grey and Cyclops' reboots in this film, I'm not sure how either are going to do.
Yeah.
Especially because you're seeing them at such an early stage. Like,
Right.
they're both more or less right out of high school in this variant. So it's really hard to say to what extent they're going to take on the characters we are kind of accustomed to in the comics or in the old cartoons.
Right. I keep going back and forth on this one. Part of me says she's going to be awful. And then the other part of me goes, going back to last season, where we see her play Sansa, and we see her play a much darker version of Sansa, a more grown-up
So you're saying there's
side.
two different Sansas, one regular, one dark?
Yes, very much so. I think she draws her power from the darker side now in the current season, but nevertheless. So I'm very interested to see where this goes with Sansa, because if they decide to continue with her in another movie, and it's another question here in a few minutes, I would love to see her use that darker side and use that, especially with psychic abilities, because before, taking the Dark Phoenix out of the equation, her psychic abilities are actually they're just as strong as Professor X's. They're just not
stronger.
If not stronger.
Yeah, she just can't. She can't control it like he can.
The older she gets, the more experience she gets, she will develop, if not surpass, Professor Xavier.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm I'm kind of on the fence on that one. I keep going back and forth. Even now, while I'm talking, I'm still not entirely sure which way I want to go. So, all right, next question: are you excited to see Professor X lose his hair, Aaron?
I'm neutral towards it.
You don't care one way or the other.
Yeah.
That doesn't excite you.
Nope.
No. Okay.
Bald men don't excite you.
Nope.
Just the fact that we actually finally get to see.
No, like if
See
they
the
did
younger
this like
version.
another couple movies down, that'd be fine too.
So it didn't matter.
Not really.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Stephanie's excited.
She
Okay.
likes short hair.
All right, Johnny.
You know what? bald with the long mane he had in the last couple movies, McAvoy still rocked. So either way, you're going to be an awesome Professor X. And if you're bald Professor X like we saw in the comics and cartoons, more power to you.
Yeah, I'm actually, my nerdum's actually excited for this because we've been on this journey with McAvoy since
First Class.
First Class. So, and this is the last of a second trilogy, really, if you really want to think about the X-Men as a whole. So we've been on this ride, and we've been seeing him become more and more like Professor X every time. So this is kind of...
He just needs the hover chair.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, that's the only thing missing, right? But...
We might get that too.
Oh, hell yeah.
So,
wait, we kind of got that in Days of Future Past, didn't we?
What's that?
The hover chair.
Through
at the end.
Through the him and Patrick Stewart, scene. But yeah, so to me, it's almost like they're crowning him. This is kind of like his graduation moment. This is
Crowning him by losing the hair.
Right. This is
Shave your head.
This is where he stops being Charles Xavier and becomes Professor X, the official character. So I'm kind of excited. All right, do you think Oscar Isaacs will make a good Apocalypse, Stephanie?
Didn't we already talk about this?
Kind of a
Sort
little
of.
bit, but let's just go direct.
Quick fire.
Yeah.
Maybe. He did a good Poe Dameron in
Star
whatever,
Wars.
in Star Wars, but that's all I've ever seen him in, so I really couldn't say yes or no.
Okay, Johnny.
As much as I didn't like Inside Llewyn Davis, he was a good Llewyn Davis. He's a good actor. He was cool as Poe Dameron. And the way that we see him give like the apocalypse level speeches in the trailer, I mean, yeah, I think he's gonna do good. It's just, I don't know. It just all depends on what they give him to do in the movie.
Okay, so if
It's a good actor that I hope is not stuck in a bad role.
so, if they give him the right writing, they give him the right lines and the right scenes, you'll think he'll do just fine.
Well, yeah, like with any actor.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
but yeah,
he should be able to embody the character. You think?
I don't know, because he's always been kind of like the tiny boy in all the movies.
I know.
I mean, and like you said, I mean, in the back of my X-Men cards, the stats of Apocalypse is 7 foot, and like this massive character. So,
Yeah.
as good of an actor as he is, I mean, let's hope like his costume designer and effects people are making him like that huge.
Okay. All right, Aaron.
Yeah, I think it'll do fun.
Okay. Any reasoning, or just you think? it'll be
He
fine?
seems fine in the trailer so far. Little bits that we have glimpsed out of it. He seems like he's going to embody the character well enough. I mean, generally, he's a character that's hard to convey onto film, but
Yeah.
I think it's going to do about as well as you can at the moment.
Okay, that's cool. I'm actually a little worried. Again, kind of we touched on it earlier, and that's just he's going to have to. I've never seen him play swagger. He has a little bit of swagger with Poe Dameron, but nothing like this guy should have.
Yeah.
Apocalypse should be overly confident in everything he does because everybody should be a bunch of ants to him. Exactly. He should be there to destroy that ass, like that picture that you just put up, John. He should be overly confident. Everything he does, he should be going in just, I'm going to wipe you out. You're ants. I think there's even a line in the cartoon, if I remember right, that says
Annoying insects.
no.
Yeah.
That, and he also goes on and he says, "I am as far beyond mutants as mutants are far beyond humans." So that's
I am as far beyond mutant as they are beyond
human. Yeah, exactly. So that's the kind of persona that he's got to embody to make a good Apocalypse. Mm-hmm. All right, next question. Can this movie stand on its own without any major scenes from Wolverine? Now, I like Wolverine a lot. I know Johnny doesn't, and Johnny's itching.
No, I'm not saying I don't like him.
Go ahead.
Just proof that X-Men can stand on their own without him. I mean, that's all I want to show off. I mean, as much to Hugh Jackman as, much love to Hugh Jackman and everything, but I'm sorry, X-Men, come on, guys, show off the great characters. Show off the fact that we don't need to make every X-Men movie the Wolverine show.
Okay. Steph?
Okay, so I just read the Entertainment Weekly magazine that we get every week at our house.
Ooh, she's
Weekly.
using some inside information.
And
references.
spoiler, so he's probably going to be in the film.
God damn it!
Oh, well, yeah, I know he's going to be in it, but
I hope
he won't
like,
be in it a lot. So.
Yeah.
I
They
hope he
said
has like
they-
a first class level cameo.
Yes, and fuck you too. Anyway,
Go fuck yourself.
so as far as major scenes, I am so excited. I think it will stand on its own because the second one did, and it didn't have him in it at all. No, it did. I'm sorry.
It
It did. I mean, yeah, they replaced all of Shadowcat scenes with Wolverine.
Not a comic book girl. Sorry.
It's okay.
First Class was the one that only had him as a guest spot.
Sorry. Oh my god, that's right.
And it definitely stood on its own.
So yeah, I'm hoping this one can do the same and stand on its own, even though he was part of the second film. Big part of the second film.
Practically the only part of the third.
All right. Aaron?
I think the X-Men films could do fine without Wolverine being in them. Don't get me wrong, Wolverine is a great character and he's an interesting character. But X-Men has probably one of the largest cast of any comic book franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Like, there's just giant factions of just characters.
You have a blue and gold team in the comics, for God's sakes, and each of them
but then
consists
you
of like
also
8
have,
to
the
9
mutants that,
members.
like, go underground and they form their own like society underground, or you have the whole Genosha story arcs. And there's
the Rob Liefeld spinoff.
yeah, like there's entire just factions and nations of mutants and characters in the X-Men comics. You could do a pretty decent one without including Wolverine.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think it's time. In fact, without him in it this much, I think this is the time to finally see Apocalypse and Jean really shine, and as well as some of the other characters. Havoc. I mean, up to this point, Havoc is kind of just learning to use his powers. So now,
In the words of a former Midwest guy,
I sense the Birchie in it. So, and the fact that he is
He's pulled out the cards, people.
He's Apocalypse's brother. Havoc is. So we're gonna have that dynamic. So it's gonna be nice to see a bunch of other characters finally get their screen time and get their
Apocalypse is his brother?
No. Havoc.
Havoc Cyclops.
Havoc Cyclops.
Okay.
Alex Summers.
Yeah,
Scott
yeah.
Summers.
Havoc's the one that
I know.
shoots the beam from the chest.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're brothers.
No, I know. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. All right.
They're cute.
Okay. Next question.
I don't know anything about this.
Here you go. Read the cards.
Do you guys like? While she reads the cards, do you guys like this incarnation of the Four Horsemen, Aaron?
I think it's an okay adaptation of it. Mm-hmm. To be honest, if there was one character I had to change out of it, it probably would be Angel.
Okay,
like, he's an interesting character, but I think, and I can definitely see why you'd put him there, because definitely from the more biblical, symbolic point of view, he definitely works. But in terms of just overall power, he's probably the weakest mutant on the team.
Yeah,
until he goes metal.
Yeah, then he becomes Archangel.
He's got like the poison tip, feather metal.
Yeah, he becomes
feathers.
Enhanced.
And it's like the angry bird wants to fight the god.
It's kind of like they Wolverine-ize him a little bit. He gets the Archangel wings. All right, Johnny, you like this set of Four Horsemen?
I guess. Let's see what they do. I think my first introduction of the Four Horsemen was the fact that you had war, famine, pestilence. Yeah, they were... Oh, God, they're scary. They're on their metal horses in the cartoon. But death... I love that Apocalypse made Archangel his horseman of death. And that's why, like, when Archangel finally turns away from him and becomes, like, the one that wants to go against Apocalypse, I mean, he was the guy that turned away from him, and I like that rivalry. So I guess... and again, I'm going to the cartoons again.
Sure. Well, that's what we got, right?
That's the storyline I liked. I mean, I think I like that one a bit more. I mean, I'll be interested to see where it goes, but in the end, it's going to just probably remind me of that Statue of Liberty battle from the end of the first X-Men.
Oh.
With the Four Horsemen, maybe. Which, again, what do we have here? We have,
I hope it's a little bit more than that, but yeah.
And again, 2 of the 4 Horsemen are women.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan Singer, you love to make women your villains for whatever reason.
We're not going to go there. Steph?
Steph needs to watch the cartoons again. I think she's looking a little...
It's okay. It's all right. Just looking at them and seeing them, what you've seen so far, do you think they're good? It'd be a good combination. Yes. Okay. That's fine.
That's all we'll get.
Okay.
That's all you'll get.
No, that's fine. I think this. I'm kind of excited for this group of 4 horsemen. It's not the 4 I would have chosen necessarily. Other than I obviously I would always have Archangel because of what happened in the '90s cartoon series, like John would. So that would definitely be one of my picks. Obviously, having Magneto as one would be one of my picks as well. So 2 of them, yeah. The other 2, having Storm and what's the other? Psylocke. It's the other 2. Probably wouldn't have been my first pick, but the more I think about it, they can create a lot of havoc. Well, they're very powerful. And as far as being destructive like the 4 horsemen are supposed to be, yeah, I'm kind of excited for that. It seems kind of like a good idea, especially Psylocke. Why can't I remember that? Yeah, so I'm very excited to see that.
And another thing too, looking at the IMDb cast listing, not only do we have 2 of the 4 horsemen they list are women, but you also have Storm and Psylocke as followers of Apocalypse, so that makes 4 out of 6 villains, 4 out of 7 villains, female.
Okay.
I'm just gonna leave that one out there.
He's really driving that home today, folks.
God damn it, Bryan Singer! Make your women strong! They don't have to be evil.
Well, hopefully, hopefully we'll see a little bit of Storm, go back and forth and maybe turn against him, because we know she's eventually part of the X-Men. I mean, that's not a spoiler alert by any...
that is clearly not a spoiler.
Unless you haven't seen the comic.
Unless you haven't picked up
Unless we're just assuming First Class just started a whole new setup and it's a different universe.
They do say it's its own timeline, so it's completely separate from X1, X2, and X3.
It's an alternate
and
universe
they've changed
version.
history too, so...
Right, so... it can go pretty much
multi-universe
wherever
theory
it
it is.
It is. It really is. So, all right. Do you think this movie will be closer to the comics or closer to the 1990s cartoon series as far as storyline is concerned? Aaron?
Probably closer to the comics.
Okay.
To be honest, I actually think the cartoon series did pretty decent adaptation overall, but
yeah.
I would say it's going to take some different approaches to it where I think it's going to be closer to the comic adaptations.
Okay.
Then again, it's also, there's variants in the comics as well, so.
Right. John?
The fact that Bryan Singer has actually said that in the writing room he actually played all of the Apocalypse episodes from the cartoon for the writers. It's going to be close to the cartoon series, I think.
Yeah. Steph?
I think the cartoon series.
Cartoon series, yeah. I think it's gonna be a little bit of both. I think it might be a little closer to the cartoon series than the comics, but just because of what you said, John, about them, watching those episodes. I know they. I think they even had the director of, or they had who was it, the writing team? I think for X1 and X2. For I can't remember their names.
Let me look it over real quick.
Okay. Anyway, so he brought them in to consult.
Simon Kinberg,
yes,
and
that's who I was thinking of. I forget.
Was it Simon Kinberg and Michael Dougherty and Dan Harris writing the story?
Yeah, and I love Kinberg's work. I mean, Kinberg's been his latest project is He's part of Rebels. I mean,
oh man, no wonder you love him.
Yeah. So he walks on gold. Walks on cloud nine. So
but he also wrote the recent Fantastic Four script too.
Yeah, but they put
and Last Stand.
Not everybody can
even
have
he even took to Twitter though and said they abortioned his script.
And apparently I'm looking again since I have IMDb pulled up in front of me. He didn't write the first 2. He only wrote Last Stand.
Oh, okay.
And Days of Future Past and Fantastic Four. So mixed bag there.
Yeah,
not
but
everybody
I love
can
that
have
guy.
a good one.
For every Sherlock Holmes, there's a jumper.
I love. I'm sorry. He still walks on water, as far as I'm concerned. So, that's just how I see it.
Can't all be winners.
All right, real quick. Will it be better than Days of Future Past, Aaron?
I don't know.
No idea.
No idea.
Not gonna venture a guess. No. Okay. Stuff.
That's pushing it, dude.
Okay.
Really?
I'm gonna say no, John.
For a quick fire question.
No.
No. Okay. We're in agreement there. Okay, last quick fire question. What do you think about, and this is just rumor, and it could be spoiler, so spoiler alert, that they may be taking another swing at the Dark Phoenix saga in the next X-Men movie or possible X-Men movies. What do you guys think about that? Johnny, I'll let you go first on that one.
Unless the DC Cinematic Universe pulls Bryan Singer away again to make another Superman film and abandoning part 3 of his X-Men trilogy again. It needs to be done right. And I hate to say it, send him to space. Send him... I mean, that's the only way to do the Dark Phoenix saga right. Send him to space. Get the M'Kraan crystal. Find the father of Star-Lord. Just get the Shi'ar galaxy involved. All of this stuff that brought the Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix out, because you can't have a Dark Phoenix saga without the Phoenix. And that right there, it's at least a 2-part movie. Part 1 being the Phoenix and part 2 being the Dark Phoenix.
Put that up into like its own little trilogy. Like, I think if you're going to do
you can make it its own like mini-series.
Oh yeah, you easily could. And to be honest, I mean, that's almost an entire season of like one of the X-Men cartoons, more or less. And because it needs that amount of time, it requires a large character base and build up, and there's a lot of dynamic moving parts.
And of course, it all starts. You got to send him to space. Yeah, the Phoenix Saga was 5 episodes. The Dark Phoenix Saga was 4 episodes. So yeah, that was about what's that?
9.
That's about almost 4.5, 5 hours.
Well, correct me if
of
I'm
television
wrong.
there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm doing this strictly from memory, which is 20 years ago plus.
God world.
It starts with Xavier feeling like a presence.
Right, that
deep
was
into space.
Lilandra from the Shi'ar galaxy, because
Right.
she knew that her empire was under attack because they were trying to find this crystal, and the guardian of the crystal was the Phoenix entity,
Right.
which embodied Jean Grey
Right.
and enhanced her psychic abilities beyond the recognition of anything in the known galaxies.
Yep. So, yeah,
we're going to show you season 2 stuff.
It's a very complex storyline stuff, but it's very cool at the same time if it's done right.
I think the complexity too is actually why it works so well. Is because you had so many interesting parts. It had that kind of linear storyline back in the day when you really didn't have that on television. All that often.
Yeah.
And not only was it like a super, like it had a good side, but it had a dark side too. They turned her evil.
Well,
so it went even further.
Well, yeah, it was a morally complex tale.
Yeah,
it
was like Star Wars for X-Men.
And not even that, but like for the whole first couple seasons, you had this building romance between Cyclops and Jean, and they were the lovebirds of the X-Men. I mean, right. Gambit and Rogue were the hot couple of the show, but Scott and Jean were the high school sweethearts you wanted to see stay together. And you saw them get married, you found out their marriage was a fraud, and then you wanted them to stay in love, and they did stay in love, and all of a sudden Jean gets possessed by the Phoenix, and spoilers for the cartoon, they end that story arc of her dying.
Yeah.
And that sends tragic. Cyclops into a depression, and then oh god, she's back, oh my love is back, and she's fucking evil. She's going to eat the universe.
She's consumed by the power. Yeah.
Okay, we need to binge watch sometime very soon in order to get the full story of the Phoenix.
You really should watch the 90s series. It's phenomenal.
It will make you hate X3 even more.
Okay.
But welcome to our world, Stephanie.
Yay! I'm so excited.
Okay.
Rogue was so hot in that cartoon.
You're so gross.
Watch it and tell me I'm wrong.
I can't argue with you. I won't say anything, but I can't argue with you. All right. Okay, I think we've covered it all, so let's just get right to final thoughts. All right, Aaron, your first final thought.
I don't know if there's really much we can add to what we've already covered. I mean, this hopefully has the opportunity to be a really good starting point for the X-Men series, and kind of continuing along with some of the improvements we saw from First Class, and hopefully kind of keeps up the pace of that.
Okay, that's fair. Steph. even though you look incredibly lost.
I'm so freaking lost.
I think we broke her with the mention of the Shi'ar galaxy.
Yeah, I'm just like,
Don't worry. Game of Thrones is next. You're our
God.
encyclopedia. for
Do
Game
you
of
want to talk about like Mordok and like his little battle arena? Big head guy.
Thrones. Yeah.
You're kicking shattered pieces right here.
I'm done. Goodbye.
All right.
See you at the next
There's
one.
Stephanie's final thought. She's done.
Stephanie's final thoughts are broken.
All right, Johnny, final thought.
Final thoughts. X-Men is always going to have a place in my heart, no matter what. Like, I grew up on the show. I was the outcast. I am identified with the outcast, and I loved the, I love the cartoon. It was sci-fi. It was nerddom. It was everything that a middle schooler could have wanted at the time.
Absolutely.
So it was perfect to me. And no matter how old I get, I mean, here I am in my late 20s. Yeah, right. No.
Yeah, you are.
Sure,
We'll go
sure,
with that.
yeah. Here I am at this age, and I'm still talking about it as passionate as I would when I was in middle school because it has that much of a place in my heart. So, for better or worse, I mean, I've seen X-Men done great, and I've seen X-Men done bad, and no matter what, I will come clamoring back for more. And Apocalypse is, a great story arc for me, and I just... Bryan Singer, you're a talented director, but just realize that in the X-Men universe, it is more than about being a subtext of coming out, like you did in X2. There are strong women as well. Please, please show the same respect to the women in the comics and the cartoon that you do to the male characters.
Fair enough. Very well said. Like John, I'll echo his sentiments. I actually had to, on Saturday mornings, nobody else wanted to watch it but me. Occasionally Katie, my sister, would, but most of the time I had to go upstairs where there was no cable. All I had was a crappy aerial antenna and a crappy television that I had to slap on the side and mess with the antenna in order to see this thing because it came on at 11 or 11:30 in the morning, and everybody else by that time was up in the morning. So I was constantly fighting that for a glimpse for that cartoon. I loved the X-Men series, fought for it for everything I had. That being said, and Apocalypse being the ultimate bad guy of that series for me, and the ultimate bad guy for the X-Men as far as I'm concerned, I'm worried that one movie isn't really enough to do justice.
True.
So I'm really, I fear some of the actors. I fear Jennifer Lawrence. Maybe he's not putting forth a great effort, even though I have nothing really to go on other than one scene I've seen so far. And I'm also worried about, like I said, it's a lot. It's such a complex story. It's a lot to build up that quickly and then end that quickly. Unless they find a way to continue the story that I don't know about, and that they're planning something to bring him back for at least another movie. He needs at least 2 movies,
At least.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
With that said, that's really my final thoughts. Is I'm hoping for the best here, but I do fear that it's coming off an ultimate high from Civil War, and it's coming off an ultimate high from the X-Men as a series, like I've said before as well. So with Days of Future Past, so it's got a lot to live up to. It's got a big story to tell. Let's see what happens. So that's pretty much all I have to say on that.
I'll really quickly touch on one of my favorite 4-part spin-off from the Marvel Comics, which was The Age of Apocalypse. Maybe that would make a great sequel to this.
Yes, it would. Actually, I know exactly.
Did
what
you
you're
read those
talking
issues
about.
too?
Yeah.
Oh my god, were they awesome?
Yes, they were.
That right there would spark my whole Rogue versus Apocalypse.
There'd have to be some slight variances in the story in order to make it work, but they could do it. Yeah, that would be sweet. If that's what they got in mind, I hope. Rather than a
God, that would be
dark
fucking awesome.
Or if they find a way to tie in Dark Phoenix to Apocalypse, that I don't
Give
know.
us the Rogue we deserve. The woman that could bench press a building.
We'll see. It's going to get interesting, I think. We'll see. Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst. All right. So with that said, where can you find 4 Midwest Guys? Well, I'll make it as quick as I can. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find us on just about every other popular podcast app. If we're not, let me know. I'll get us on there. Everything else you can find by going to Google, typing in the number 4 Midwest Guys. That'll bring up our Facebook page. That'll bring up our Twitter account. That'll bring up our YouTube account. It'll bring up our email account as well. Everything you need is there on Google. Just Google us, find us, reach out to us. We want to hear from you. I'd like to get some feedback. I'd love to get some questions. I'd love to answer your questions on our different shows. We've got a Game of Thrones podcast. We do Star Wars Rebels. We do Gotham.
Please let us know you're listening to us.
Tell us you like us. Tell us you hate us. I don't care. Just let us reach out to us. That's all I ask. All right. So, Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
Steph, thanks for joining us.
I'm broken.
We broke Stephanie.
It's easy.
And Johnny, thanks for joining us.
Oh, I get to talk about X-Men. This is great.
And for B. Willie saying, see you next time.